the Republican Party's complicity when it comes to Trump's spread of misinformation and his concerted effort to stoke distrust in an election deemed the most secure in our country's history, and which Attorney General Bill Barr said was free from widespread fraud, could do lasting harm. That's the view of former Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who tweeted this about Trump's pressuring of local officials to overturn the will of the people. Quote, there is long-term damage when this kind of behavior is normalized. It is not normal, and elected Republicans need to speak out against it, something only a handful of them have done. As of today, 6 Republican senators have explicitly acknowledged that Joe Biden is the next president, which means that only one has come out in the 16 days since we told you, are shocked that only 5 had spoken out. Nearly 90% of elected Republican senators are still staying quiet or dancing around the fact that we will have a new occupant in the Oval Office on January 20th. That refusal to acknowledge, even more striking given yesterday's devastating blow from the United States Supreme Court, which refused to take up an appeal that tried to nullify the certification of Pennsylvania's election results. It was described this way by Peter Baker of the New York Times, quote, the Supreme Court, with 3 justices appointed by Trump, thought so little of his allies' bid to overturn the election results in Pennsylvania that it dismissed the case with just 1 sentence and no noted dissents. Even in the face of that blatant dismissal, Donald Trump continues to falsely claim that the election was stolen from him. Today, he tweeted a flurry of falsehoods, many of which have the now familiar Twitter warnings on them. Pete Wehner, a former speechwriter for George W. Bush, calls Trump's ability to have his supporters believe his every word, despite being devoid of fact, his, quote, most malicious legacy. Pete writes this, quote, more than half of Republicans said Trump rightfully won, but the election was stolen from him because of widespread voter fraud that favored Biden. Claims that are hallucinations. This might be Donald Trump's most enduring legacy, a nihilistic political culture, one that is tribalistic, distrustful, and sometimes delusional, swimming in conspiracy theories. The result is that Americans are disoriented and frustrated, fearful, and often enraged at one another. Donald Trump didn't invent misinformation and disinformation, but Trump exploited them more effectively than anyone else has in American history. Exhibited in what just happened in the last hour, 17 states, all with Republican attorneys general, and ones where Trump beat Joe Biden, have told the Supreme Court that they support that long-shot suit by Texas's AG to nullify Biden's victories in 4 battleground states. The complete collapse of the Republican Party is where we start this hour with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. Jen Palmieri is here, former White House communications director under President Obama and former communications director for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Also joining us, Tim Miller, former communications director for Jeb Bush's 2016 campaign, a contributor to The Bulwark, and the political director for Republican Voters Against Trump, and Steve Schmitzbach, political strategist, Lincoln Project co-founder, my longtime friend, Steve Schmidt. I got to hear what's on your mind about all this.
Well, this was a monumental month in the history of the country. Democracy is fueled by faith and belief by the people in the legitimacy of the system. And our system requires both sides in the competition of ideas that's decided in elections. It requires both sides to be willing to lose an election. And if you have one side who is no longer willing to lose an election and won't represent the popular will of the American people, then what you have on American soil is an autocratic political party. And so we have some Republican senators, none of whom covered themselves with glory in any of this, with the exception of Mitt Romney over these last couple of years. At least we have 6 of them who hold on to the basic tenets of American democracy behind the lines of the autocratic movement, right? Really a last defense, I suppose, in the Republican Party. And then all of the rest of us on the other side of that line, from AOC and Bernie Sanders to the Lincoln Project and Tim Miller and all of the folks that stood with Joe Biden, whose careers have been as conservatives or Republicans, right? American politics realigned this month. We're now one election away in this country from losing our democracy because one party doesn't believe in it. We saw the poisoning of American democracy drip by drip, drop by drop this month until we saw 82% of Republicans said, hey, this is illegitimate. And once you reach that critical mass, you're in a lot of trouble as a society and a country. And this is going to be the defining political fight, I suspect, over the balance of all of our lifetimes. But truly a historic month, and not one for the good in the middle of a profound calamity. And Trump's vandalism of this country, its institutions, has been profound, and it will be damaging for a long time to come.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.